So in this video I'm going to break down who every single person from yesterday's UFC Fight Night Aspinall vs Tybura card should fight next. So starting off with the first fight, we have Yavil Filho versus Daniel Perez. And starting off with the loser, Daniel Perez, I think he should fight João Camilo Rodrigues, who Filho was originally meant to fight, but for some reason the fight was called off. So I think that fight makes sense. Next. And then for Filho, I think he should fight Jesus Santos Aguilar, which I think would be a really cool fight. Jesus Aguilar's coming off that big KO win over Shannon Ross. And before that, coming off a loss against Tatsuro Taira. And then Filho's coming off a loss against Muhammad Makayev. So I guess this would it would help us know who's beat the better level of competition between Makayev and Tatsuro Taira. So that would also be an interesting little storyline there. But yeah, I think that's the fight to make next for that one. Next, I'll be talking about the fight between who the women from Bruna Brazil versus Shauna Bannon should fight next. So the winner, Bruna Brazil, I think she should fight Victoria Dudakova, who just won last weekend by shoulder dislocation. That makes the most sense for me. And then I think Shauna Bannon should fight Melissa Martinez. Not much thought process going into these matchups. This is just, makes the most logical sense. Next, I'll be talking about Chris Duncan versus Yanal Ajmouz. For the loser, Yanal Ajmouz, I think he should fight the winner of Gabriel Miranda versus Shane Young. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think he would, but also because he could be off for a while as well, because I think he did break his arm. So that fight's in September, and the winner or the loser or whatever, they could take a lot of damage in that fight. So I think that's a reasonable timeline. If Shane Young wins, he's not the most active guy, so that could time up well for Chanel Ajmouz. And then for Chris Duncan, I'd like to see Chris Duncan fight Joaquin, if he's still fighting, Joaquim, I think that's how you pronounce it, Joaquim Silva, who just had the fight with Arman Tazoukian. I think that would make some sense. If he's not fighting again though, you could do Chris Duncan versus Manuel Torres. That makes some sense. That'd be a fun fight as well. Next, I'll be talking about Caitlin Vieira versus Pani Kianzad. Not much thought's going to go into this. I guess do Irene Aldana versus Caitlin Vieira, and then do Pani Kianzad versus Josiane Nunes. Makes sense to me. Now I'll be talking about Makhmud Muradov versus Brian Barberena. Now this is interesting because from what the broadcast was saying, I think Brian Barberena is going to stay at middleweight moving forward. Which, if that's the case, then I'd like to see him in a fight against Julian Marquez. I think that would be a real fun fight. Be a scrap. Don't think Marquez would grapple as well. And, Barberena, he can't be in a boring fight, really, unless someone just, grounds him out. So that would make the most sense to me if Barberena is staying at middleweight. If he's not, if he's going back down to welterweight, then I'd like to see Brian Barberena versus Nico Price, both in similar parts of their career, and they've never fought before. Now, for Makhmud Muradov, I would like to see a fight between him and either Phil Hawes or Eric Anders. I feel like both of them could be fun. Phil Hawes, he's taking a lot of damage as well. And if they want to build Muradov up, he'll probably KO Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes is really good. It's just his durability it's not there. And, he's taken so much more damage that, his chin's just going to get worse. So if he's going to keep fighting, then maybe him versus Makhmud Muradov. If not, then him versus Eric Anders. I think that'd be a fun fight. Okay, next I'm going to break down who the winner and loser of Jamal Pogues versus Mick Parkin should fight. Now, I apologize for this one because the the only fight that really makes sense here, it's not really the most fun fight, but it's Jamal Pogues versus Carl Williams. I think that makes some sense. It'd probably just be a Carl Williams domination there, but what can you do? Both former light heavyweights, I believe. So yeah, why not? And then Mick Parkin should fight. I wouldn't mind seeing him versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. I'm not sure if he's got a fight booked at the moment. I don't believe that he does. Oh, he does. Okay, so he's fighting Lucas Bresky. Okay, yeah, maybe you do the winner of Mick Parkin versus either of them guys. It makes sense. It's weird that that fight's happening, considering Lucas Bresky's, on a 2-fight losing streak and the lowest ranked heavyweight, even though he should have beat Martin Bidet. But yeah, that fight, that would make the most sense in my opinion. Or you could do Mick Parkin versus Andrei Arlovsky. But yeah, that makes the most sense there in my opinion. Next, I'll be talking about Mark Jacasey and Yoel Alvarez. So I think Mark Jacasey should fight another winner who was on this card in Fares Ziem. It's weird actually pronouncing these names that you type so much over the years. You never actually try and pronounce them. But yeah, that fight would make some sense. Even knowing... Or actually, maybe Jai Herbert would make more sense actually than Zam, because Zam's coming off a win, yeah. So yeah, do Jai Herbert, Mark Jacasey. That makes sense to me. And then for Yoel Alvarez, I think he should fight Jarlin Turner. I feel like that'd be a really fun fight. So yeah, that would make a lot of sense to me, in my opinion. That'd be fun as well. Two biggest lightweights. It'd look funny, in my opinion, just to see like lightweights that big. So yeah, Alvarez versus Turner makes the most sense for me, and it would just be a good fight, I reckon. Next, I'll be talking about Danny Roberts versus Johnny Parsons. Now, for Danny Roberts, who lost, I hope they give him another fight, because this was an entertaining fight, and I enjoyed watching it. Like he put up a good performance. His chin just it failed him, but he won the first round, and he was like having a lot of success, but he got a little impatient. But I think they should give him another fight. I think they will, just because he got fight of the night as well. Normally when fighters do that, the UFC reward them with another fight. So I think Danny Roberts should fight AJ Fletcher. I think that would make some sense. Fletcher's 1-2, just coming off a win off Femba Grimbo. So that would make a lot of sense there. And for Johnny Parsons, now this is interesting. I think it's a random matchup, but I think it could be entertaining. Would be him versus Wellington Turman. I know it's a bit of a random one, but Turman looked pretty good against Randy Brown, and Parsons will be looking up to the division, so that would make a lot of sense in my opinion. So yeah, I reckon those fights make sense. And Turman looked like good striking against Randy Brown, so it'd be interesting to see his approach in the fight against Parsons. But yeah, I hope Danny Roberts gets another fight, because he looked really entertaining out there, and yeah, fight of the night for sure. Alright, next we're moving on to the main card, and Davy Grant lost to Daniel Marcos. It was a pretty controversial decision. I thought Davy Grant won pretty easily, but yeah, they went with Daniel Marcos. I think Daniel Marcos, he should fight Victor Henry. Makes sense. Move up the division. And then for Davy Grant, I think he should fight Daniel Santos, which I reckon would be a super, super fun fight. Super fun fight. Daniel Santos has that shootbox style. He just relentlessly moves forward, takes damage, And I feel like it would just be perfect stylistic matchup. David Grant's a pretty fun fighter, and he loves someone who moves forward. So Daniel Santos versus David Grant, like that could be fight. That's fight of the night on any fight night you put it on, even maybe a pay per view. Like that'd just be a super fun fight. So yeah, Daniel Santos versus David Grant, make it happen, UFC. Come on. Next, I'll be breaking down who Joshua Kalibau and Lerone Murphy should fight next. So for Josh Kalibau, I'd like to see him in a fight against Daniel Pineda next. I feel like that'd be a super fun fight. Pineda plus grappler versus striker, but Pineda is competent on the feet. And yeah, I just think that'd be a real fun fight. And for Lerone Murphy, and this is where it gets interesting. He definitely deserves a ranked fighter next. So with that being said, I'd like to see him versus Edson Barboza. I reckon that'd just be a super fun fight. Like, be an interesting fight and winnable for both men. So I'd like to see that next. I reckon that'd just be a banger fight. So next we'll be talking about oh, fuck, what are their names? Jai Herbert versus Ferris Ziam. There we go. Fucking yeah, that is bad as forgetful as the fight, to be honest. So I already mentioned before that Jai Herbert should fight Mark Jacuzzi. So for Ferris Ziam, maybe you can do him against Rafa Garcia next. Is Garcia booked? No, he's not. Yeah, that'd be a good fight. Rafa Garcia is a really good fighter. And yeah, that'd be an interesting style clash. So that makes the most sense next. All right, now this is one I'm really interested to talk about. So Paul Craig versus Andre Muniz. Paul Craig came off with the win. So I'll start off with who Andre Muniz should fight next. I think Andre Muniz, being the loser, he should fight the winner of Gerald Meerschaert versus Andre Petroski. I think that makes sense. Good fight for him as well. The winner, like the winner, both grapple heavy guys, not the best striking. So that'd be an interesting style clash there. And as for Paul Beardew Craig, I think he should fight Jack Hermanson next. I think that just makes perfect sense. Be an interesting style clash as well. And yeah, I'd love to see it. Paul Craig at middleweight's like an interesting prospect. I don't mean he is a prospect. He's 35 years old. I mean just the idea of him at middleweight's really interesting. Like there's a nice fresh breath of air. Nice fresh breath of air. There we go. So I'm so excited about this to talk about Paul Craig at middleweight. He looked really good out there. Like he's looked his career best against Andre Muniz there. That was like an impressive performance. Like I was really impressed with him. Like he actually got a takedown. Like he actually we got to see his top game for the first time properly. So yeah, I'd love to see him fight Jack Hermanson. If not Jack Hermanson, I also wouldn't mind a fight with maybe Marvin Vettori. I know it's like a big jump, but Vittori's going to be out for a while, so I don't know if that fight will happen either. If they really want to push Paul Craig up quickly, though, they could make that. But I like the Jack Hermanson fight, or maybe even the winner of Chris Curtis versus Anthony Hernandez. Which imagine Paul Craig versus Chris Curtis. Like imagine the size difference there. But yeah, interesting times. I'm glad Paul Craig won just because it makes middleweight a lot more interesting now. And yeah, I was surprised how good he looked. I had a feeling he was going to win after I seen that he didn't look super depleted at the weigh-in, but I still kept my pick against Muniz. But he looked a lot more durable. Like he took shots on the chin and he wasn't rocked. So yeah, maybe middleweight Paul Craig, he can actually go on a run. But I guess time will tell. But I'm interested to see what he does moving forward. Next, I'll be talking about Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Fili. And for Andre Fili, this is interesting. I'd say Andre Fili should fight the winner of Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. I think that'd be fun. Could even maybe do a Nate the Train versus Andre Fili matchup. And then for Nathaniel Wood, I would like to see him versus Sadiq Youssef. We don't know where Sadiq Youssef has been. He hasn't had anything booked since he beat Don Shanas. So I don't know if he's injured or what's going on with that, but if he is injured or something, You could maybe do him versus Nathaniel Wood. Wood did take a bit of damage in that fight, but it doesn't seem like Sadiq Yusuff is like in any rush to fight. So I guess that would make some sense if that's the case. But if Sadiq Yusuff does get a fight booked soon or something, I guess you could also do Nathaniel Wood versus the winner of Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson. That'd make some sense. Even though I think Wood probably should get a ranked guy at this point, but one more. I mean, Charles Rose is not the best win. Jourdain's a decent win, and Philly's a really good win. So maybe one more fight before a ranking, but if not, Sadiq Yusuff for a ranking makes sense. But yeah, I was impressed with Nathaniel Wood. Can't believe there were people actually like saying it was a robbery. Doesn't make any sense at all to me. Like Nathaniel Wood clearly won the third round, so that was really weird. But people are always going to cry robbery after every fight. It's just what people do. It's stupid, but it is what it is. So next I'll be talking about the co-main event, which was Molly Meatball McCann versus Julia Storyalenko. Damn, I nailed that. So I'd like to start off with the winner, Julia Storyalenko. I think she should fight Natalia Silva. It's not a good matchup for Storyalenko, but Silva's like a good prospect, and it would help her name to get a win against the person the woman who just beat Molly McCann. It would probably help her name value there. But it could be an interesting stylistic clash there. And then for Molly McCann, I guess you could do her. I don't know if these two have fought before. Let me check. Okay, no, they fought. Guess you could do. I guess you could do Molly McCann versus. Knowing the UFC matchmaking, they'll probably do Molly McCann versus Brogan Walker, just because it seems like a decent matchup for Molly McCann. Or they do Molly McCann versus Mandy Bone. That'll probably be what the UFC do. But yeah, shocking performance. I don't think. Not many people were thinking Storyalenko had a chance there. Especially interesting to see her as a flyweight, considering a lot of her fights were at like 145, 140 catch weights, and she was barely making bantamweight. But yeah, she looked solid. She looked good. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe that's just the right weight class, and maybe she'll go on a run. But yeah, you never know with women's MMA. And next, I'll be talking about the main event, which was Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura. Now, for Marcin Tybura, I'd like to see a fight that he actually was booked for last year against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Makes the most sense. They were already booked against each other. It didn't end up happening. I think it was COVID related or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but makes the most sense. Rozenstruik versus Tybura. Winnable fight for them both. And yeah, hopefully it's not a main event though. I don't want to see that as a main event of a fight night. Please God, no. Because the UFC really like doing like really sloppy heavyweight main events. Like I like heavyweight main events when it's like it can like if it's a 5-rounder, it's not going to be like a sloppy gassed out fight. But if Rozenstruik versus Tybura went 5 rounds, which I don't think it would either way, but fuck me, that'd be awful. And then for Tom Aspinall, he called out the winner of Cyril Gane versus Spivak. If Cyril Gane wins, then I guess you can do him versus Cyril Gane. But if Spivak wins, please don't do that. We don't need to keep running back all these fights, especially like when you don't need a rematch, like Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann 2. Who was asking for that fight? Doesn't make any sense. They just fought like a year or two ago, and it was a dominant win for Smith. So, but anyway, enough about ranting about that. So I think either you do Aspinall versus Gane if he wins, or you do him versus Sergey Pavlovich. But you wait till John Jones fights Stipe first. You see if he's actually going to vacate the belt or not. Because if he doesn't vacate, it'll probably end up being Sergey Pavlovich versus John Jones next, just off the run Sergey Pavlovich is on. But it's all dependent on what happens at MSG in November. Maybe Stipe wins, which is also that's a possibility in this sport. I don't think he'll win, but you never know. You can't really count him out. I know he hasn't fought for long, but apparently he's bulked up quite a bit, and he's like 265 now. So it'll be interesting to see what his game plan against Jones is, again with added muscle and everything. I think he'll give John Jones a more competitive fight than Cyril Gane did as well. But yeah, there's a lot of if, buts, and maybes. But yeah, Aspinall versus Pavlovich. Wait off before booking it though, just to see what happens with Jones versus Stipe. And if Jones keeps fighting and he does fight Pavlovich, then yeah, do Aspinall versus the winner of. If it's Cyril Gane, you do him versus Cyril Gane. If Spivak wins, then do the winner of Curtis Blades versus Jolton Almeida versus Tom Aspinall. Like that Blades fight, you can't even really count that as a fight. It went for 15 seconds. And I know a lot of people were saying that Curtis Blades was like just landing at will on Tom Aspinall. If you actually slow it down, a lot of those punches, Tom actually slipped a lot of them. Like he didn't even, in the beginning, it looked like he landed like a 3-piece combo, but Aspinall actually like fucking dodged every single punch. So yeah, that fight, people saying that like Blade was definitely about to get him out of there. Like, no, a lot of those punches didn't even land, and the ones that did, Tom ate them pretty well. So, but yeah, that makes the most sense for all the fights I'd like to see next after UFC Fight Night. Tybura versus Aspinall, and yeah, thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.